Welcome into Off the Hook Sports. I am your host, Caleb Calhoun. A lot to get to today as we continue to recap what happened with Tennessee last weekend in UAB. Is Tennessee's defense a real concern? That'll be today's tough question. Could the 9-3 Vols get into the playoffs now? Didn't think that would be the case at the beginning of the year, but their schedule is looking tougher and tougher by the day. We're going to talk about that. The Tennessee line against Mississippi State drops 2 points from 10.5 to 8.5 points. SEC Power Rankings. College football week 4 recap. Also, the Vol report, a assistant AD is now heading over to Utah State. We're going to talk about that. This day in Tennessee sports history, stat of the day, lot to get to. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications, tell a friend. Building something great here at Off the Hook Sports. We want you to be a part of it. Happy first day of fall. Guys, don't worry. Dave had a previous commitment today specifically. He had to show up for it. He had to deal with it. It's running longer than he thought, so he just couldn't do the show today. So he still should be back tomorrow. Do not worry. But Dave did have a commitment that he had to handle and take care of this morning, and we thought it was going to be done by 9, but it wasn't done in time for the start of the show. So it's just me today. Dave should be back tomorrow. So still hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications, tell a friend. Let's get rolling, and we're actually going to start with the Vol report. Tennessee Assistant Athletic Director Cameron Walker has been hired as Utah State's next athletic director. Cameron Walker has been at Tennessee and UCF for a while. He's been with Danny White since 2018. Most recently, obviously, he was the Senior Director of Athletics and Chief Strategy Officer at Tennessee since November of 2024, adding additional responsibilities as the Executive Director of Tennessee's Athletics Foundation in July of 2025. He joined the Vols in 2021 as Deputy Director of Athletics for Competitive Excellence. A lot of the things Cameron Walker has been doing, strategic initiatives to support the overall success and growth of the program, providing oversight for areas like compliance, facilities, legal affairs, grounds, even operations, sports administrations, and initiatives related to NIL. Kind of a broad corporate jargon title, if we're being honest. But at the same time, what stands out about this departure is that Cameron Walker is the third. That's right. He's the third assistant athletic director to leave Tennessee since Danny White has taken over as athletic director. Is this a sign of how good of a job Danny White is doing? Well, that's brought to you by the Vol Report, brought to you by Hometown Realty LLC. That's Hometown Realty. Go to ryancoleman.org, Knoxville's best from 2017 to 2022. Download the app, get instant updates, personalized searches. Again, ryancoleman.org, ryancoleman.org. The link is right down below. That's right, the Vol Report. We start off with the Vol Report, and it's about Cameron Walker leaving for Utah State. I have a feeling that this has a lot to do with the success Danny White has had more than anything. I think Danny White's success has generated a lot of success for so many other schools and so many other teams. And I think that given what he's done, remember, guys, it's not just Danny White at Tennessee. Him at Tennessee is what makes the real story. But before Tennessee, Danny White really did build up UCF. He's the reason they're in the Big 12 right now. And before UCF, he built up Buffalo. Again, nobody saw Buffalo becoming what they became until Danny White took over. So Danny White has been doing this for a long, long time, and he's done an incredible job at it. So when you take all that into account, Danny White, I think the success he has had, people just want to hire anybody who's been tied to him. Not necessarily about what he's done at Tennessee, although what he's done at Tennessee is part of it, but people are looking at his overall track record. Remember, Senior Deputy Athletic Director Alan Green was hired by Pitt in November, and Senior Deputy Athletic Director and Chief Revenue Officer Ryan Alpert was hired by Georgia Tech in 2025. So Pitt, Georgia Tech, and Utah State all have athletic directors who were assistants from Tennessee. Now, Walker actually has experience being in Utah. He was there, I believe, at this is kind of morbid to bring up, but he was at Utah Valley University. For those who don't know, I believe Utah Valley University was where Charlie Kirk was tragically shot less than 2 weeks ago. He was an associate athletic director there, then spent 6 years there before going to UCF, linking up with White, also an adjunct professor, by the way, at Utah Valley. Graduated from Southern Virginia in 2007, played baseball, and got his law degree at Arkansas. The question is, how big of a deal is this? Well, I don't like dismissing the job assistants do with anything. And Cam Walker, I'm not going to dismiss the work he's done. But I really do believe that Cameron Walker, that Tennessee is going to be fine, because this is just a sign of Danny White being the elite athletic director. This program runs through, by, and from Danny White. He makes all the decisions. He hires a great staff, and he'll continue to do it. But Nick Saban had staff turnover all the time at Alabama. It didn't make any difference. He was still doing his job at a very high level when he was coaching the Tide. And that's not to say that staff aren't important, but there's other people that are good in those roles. And Danny White, if anybody's going to find them, it's him. Danny White is the best hirer in the business. That's his biggest strength, is he always hires well. We see it more on the college football field, but there's a lot of reasons to believe that he also does it extremely well in other areas too. And that includes when he's hiring people in compliance or people on his administrative staff, anything like that, you name it. I think that Danny White is honestly, I think that's what we see more than anything else. Danny White hires well everywhere he goes, in every way, shape, and form. When you take that into account, I don't think there's any way that you should really worry about Tennessee losing Cameron Walker, because it's not about Cameron Walker not being good at this job. It's just the same with an offensive coordinator at Tennessee. You're going to lose offensive coordinators if you do your job. The thing is, Josh Heupel, you're going to expect him to still continue to make sure that you're going to expect Josh Heupel to continue to just be able to replace those guys regularly. And so when you take that into account, I wouldn't worry too much about losing Cameron Walker. And I'm going to set up the poll question on that. How big of a Tennessee losing 3 assistant ADs within the past year is concerning, comes with having a great AD. So you guys go ahead and vote on that. Tennessee losing 3 assistant ADs in the past year is concerning or comes with having a great AD. I think we agree it's probably comes with having a great AD. I think we're all going to land on that same point, but it was just worth bringing up and taking a look into. Where does Tennessee go from here? Look, part of losing athletic directors within a year, you never want to lose them during football season or around that time. You got so many other things going on, and Danny White's dealing with a lot right now. We've all heard about the stadium reports. There were issues with people getting into the stadium a couple of weeks ago. We had to apologize for it. There's also issues with water. Danny White hasn't actually been the only athletic director to make this mistake. I believe at Alabama, they got rid of the water fountains, and it's noon games in September. And you're going to make college kids pay for water. Half of them are hungover. I think they had a bunch of people rush to the hospital. I don't know if this was this past year. I think it was years in the past. But at the same time, you see a lot of SEC stadiums trying to ditch free water in the stadium. One of the dumbest, most dangerous things you could possibly do. And there were complaints about the water situation at Neyland Stadium this past weekend. So Danny White's got a lot to deal with on that front. So I don't think it's a big deal if you're losing a guy like Cameron Walker. I think you can replace him, or losing anybody in terms of an assistant athletic director. But I will say that Danny White, given what he's dealing with elsewhere at this moment, probably doesn't want to have to look for replacements. Now, the poll question up, Tennessee losing 3 ADs within the past year is concerning, comes with having a great AD. 100% of you say comes with having a great AD. 0% of you can say concerning. I probably agree with you on that. Again, the Vol Report is brought to you by Hometown Realty LLC. That's Hometown Realty. Go to ryancoleman.org. Knoxville's best from 2017 to 2022. Download the app. Get instant updates, personalized searches. Again, ryancoleman.org. ryancoleman.org. The link is right down below. That poll question is still staying up right now. Is Tennessee losing 380s within the past year concerning or coming with or does it come with having a great athletic director? And again, it's a unanimous vote. 100% of you guys are saying right now that it comes with having a great athletic director. I by and large agree with you guys. I would just sit there and say that Danny White probably doesn't want to lose him right now because there are other things he is having to deal with, particularly the logistics of Neyland Stadium, giving all the changes going at the stadium right now. All right. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications, tell a friend. Portions of the program are brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations, your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chatwith2tsmortgage.com, chatwith2tsmortgage.com. It is time for today's tough question, and it involves Tennessee's defense. The Vols defense gave up 24 points to UAB, over 370 yards through the air. They are continuing to show struggles on defense, particularly in the pass defense. It is indeed a bit misleading, to be fair, because a lot of UAB's points were in garbage time, but it also shows that Tennessee's depth is a really big problem. So, today's tough question, brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, is this. Is Tennessee's defense going to be a long-term concern this year? That is the poll question. I'm going to go ahead and set it up now. Is Tennessee's defensive woes, are they a long-term concern? Are the Vols' defensive woes a long-term concern for this year? And the answer will be yes or no. They just need to get healthy. You guys can vote on that right now. It's up. Let's break down exactly what Tennessee's dealing with on defense, because we do have to be fair. Tennessee is without its top two cornerbacks, Jermon McCoy and Ricky Gibson III, both of NFL talent. And Jermon McCoy is arguably the best pro prospect on this team. In the middle, they are without David Hobbs and Jackson Moy. They're playing 4 down. You could say 5 down with David Sanders Jr. out. Now, injuries are part of the game. Everybody deals with them. But Tennessee, on defense, is dealing with the program that lost its best NFL prospect from last year in James Pierce Jr., that had to replace 3 defensive tackles in their 6-man rotation already in Amari Thomas, Omar Norman Lott, and Elijah Simmons. So losing 2 of the other 6 that were back this year from last year, Jackson Moy and my mind just went blank. I'm sorry, guys. Jackson Moy and David Hobbs is already going to shorten their rotation more than they want it to be shortened. In the secondary, it's even worse because when you take into account the cornerback situation, they're having to start a true freshman out there. Now, also the safeties are just limited in what they can do. I know Andre Turrentine had an interception last week, but the safeties and the nickels and the slot cover guys are just limited. Jalen McMurray is a smart player, does everything he possibly can, but he's limited physically. Same with Andre Turrentine at safety. The raw talent is still just too raw. Boo Carter's a little bit raw in the secondary still because of probably some off-season issues where he didn't develop the way he should have. Ty Redmond is a freshman. Colton Hood transferred after the spring to Tennessee from Colorado, so he's not as familiar with the defensive schemes yet. And then when you add in the fact that none of these guys are lockdown corners that can play an island, you got a real issue. McCoy Island was a real thing last year. It helped that James Pierce was up front because Pierce could get the pressure, and that allowed McCoy to be on an island. But at the same time, there is no McCoy Island this year. None. And what we thought Colton Hood could be, which he could be, we thought he could have been able to play on an island. He can. And by the way, that's okay. Sometimes people just can't be island cornerbacks. But that changes so much with your defense. And in particular, when your safeties are limited. Andre Turrentine and Idris Farouk can only do so much. They have issues, guys. So, when everybody gets healthy on defense, will it still be a problem? I'm going to say it'll be a problem in the secondary because we saw this with UAB. the defensive line was never really threatened. They were never going to be threatened, even with their backups that did wear down against Georgia. They're just too overwhelming against UAB. But even with them winning the line of scrimmage, UAB was able to torch them at times through the year once Tennessee put their backups in the secondary. So the truth be told, Tennessee needs one of its cornerbacks to return. If not, then yes, I'm going to say it up front. Defensive woes will be a long-term concern. I'll just put it out there. They just need Jermon McCoy back. Defensive woes will be a long-term concern until Jermon McCoy gets back. He's that good of a receiver. Jermon McCoy is, in my opinion, probably not that good of a receiver, that good of a cornerback. Jermon McCoy is probably the best cornerback in the SEC when fully healthy. Now, we do have to point out that it will be a bit of more of a question this year when he gets back than it was last year, because Jermon McCoy, as we've mentioned, got a lot of help from the pressure that was brought up front with Tennessee's depth on the defensive line and James Pierce Jr. on the outside. Even when Tennessee gets fully healthy on the defensive line, they won't be what they were last year up front. They just won't. So when you take that into account, yes, Jermon McCoy needs to get back. Then it won't be a long-term concern. But until he is fully healthy and ready to go, and I doubt he's going to be fully healthy and ready to go this week, yes, Tennessee's defensive woes are a serious, serious concern. So it's not that they just need to get healthy. It's where they need to get healthy. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
The poll question up: are the Vols' defensive woes a long-term concern for this year? 38% of you say yes. 62% of you say no. They just need to get healthy. I'm splitting the baby because I'm saying yes, depending on who gets healthy. Overall, on a generic sense, they do just need to get healthy. But it's where they need to get healthy, and it's specifically having Jermon McCoy back. And I'm going to say it, Jermon McCoy, there are concerns about whether or not he's going to be back and fully ready to go. Maybe not even before November. I mean, guys, he tore his ACL in January. It's only so quickly when you can get back from that. And it's hard for me to say that Jermon McCoy can ever get fully back. And the UAB game enlightened me on the sense that it's about the secondary. Because when Gunnar Stockton was torching Tennessee and had that drive, particularly in the fourth quarter, and then Georgia ran on Tennessee in overtime, yes, the defensive line got tired. And I was able to cite the defensive line not having its depth. Defensive line was never threatened against UAB, as they weren't going to be. That's where Tennessee was going to have its biggest advantage. And it still didn't stop Jalen Kitna from torching Tennessee secondary late in the game after Tennessee pulled its starters. So right now they're so thin at cornerback that they can't go beyond their two starting cornerbacks. And if they do, they start to have trouble. Once you factor that in, yes, they need their cornerbacks back. That's where they really need to get healthy, specifically at cornerback and specifically Jermon McCoy. If I'm ranking defensive players that need to get back, I'm going Jermon McCoy number one. Now, I will be fair on this. Ricky Gibson the third will be last, as much as I say they need their cornerbacks back, because the biggest thing that they need is the lockdown island cornerback. Ricky Gibson the third is not that. The other guys out there can do what Gibson can do. Colton Hood, Ty Redmond, Jalen McMurray, they can all do what Gibson can do. I wouldn't worry about them. But nobody can do what McCoy can do. So I have McCoy as the most important player Tennessee needs to get back. The second most important player on that list is Jackson Moy. Jackson Moy is a potential playmaker at defensive tackle. They really need him back. And then David Hobbs is the third guy that they need back. And then Ricky Gibson the third is fourth. Take all those guys into account, though they need them all back. I just think the biggest one is Jermon McCoy and then one of the defensive tackles. If they can do that, we'll be talking about a different team. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. When we come back, this day in Tennessee history, and could the 9-3 Vols now get into the playoffs? That will be Bank on It. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook. Sports.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem.
Oh boy. Yep, you're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Welcome back to the program. Hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn on your notifications. Tell a friend. We are building something great here at Off the Hook Sports. Want you to be a part of it. Portions of the program are brought to you by HoundDogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. HDKnoxville.com and HDKnoxville.com. It is time for This Day in Tennessee Sports History. Tennessee hasn't played a lot of notable games on September the 22nd. Most of the time, they do have a bye during this week. However, back in 2007, in the most apathetic game that Tennessee fans may have ever witnessed under Philip Fulmer, the Vols beat Arkansas State 48-27. For those who don't know, Tennessee started that year 1-2 with blowout losses to Cal and Florida, and it looked like they were completely done and were not going to do anything that year. Well, they righted the ship with that 48-27 win over Arkansas State, and that spurred them winning 8 of their final 9 games and winning the SEC East, going to Atlanta to face LSU. That in winning the SEC East that year included a dominating victory over a Georgia team that will finish in the top 5, and then overtime wins over Kentucky and South Carolina, and a 24-9 comeback win over Vanderbilt. They just found ways to win down the stretch of that year, but it all started with that 48-27 win over Arkansas State. This day in Tennessee sports history, brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates, facebook.com/sports treasures TM, facebook.com/sports treasures TN.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
We talked about this last week. After looking at Tennessee's schedule, it turns out that the slate for the Vols could be much, much, much tougher than we thought at the beginning of the year. At the beginning of the year, we projected Tennessee's entire season would come down to 3 games: Florida, Alabama, and Georgia, as they usually do. And and by the way, Florida was only on that list because of the potential for how they ended last season. Florida is obviously significantly worse. Alabama right now appears to be worse because of how they played week 1. And so originally the signs were that things were worse. However, the play of so many other schools has now completely reversed what we thought about Tennessee. A few notable ones. Oklahoma. Now we're going to talk later about Oklahoma's sketchy win over Auburn, but sketchy or not, and by the way, that's only that call that everybody's criticizing. That was the difference on whether or not the game would have gone to overtime. We still don't know that Oklahoma wouldn't have won. At the end of the day, Oklahoma is 4-0 right now with 2 top 25 wins. That is a way tougher game for Tennessee than we thought. They are number 7 in the AP poll, number 10 in the coaches poll. Georgia is Georgia. Alabama is slowly creeping back up, guys. We're forgetting this. Alabama, they had an off week, but they blew out Wisconsin 2 weeks ago. And with an off week, Ty Simpson, they could really get things going. Vanderbilt, that's right. Vanderbilt is undefeated and now in the top 25. They are number 18 in the AP poll and number 20 in the coaches poll. A huge leap for the Doors. But where things really stand out is now Tennessee's season opening win. I told you guys Syracuse was a tougher program than we thought. Fran Brown running a great program there. Fran Brown has Syracuse 3-1, and they just beat Clemson by 2 touchdowns on the road. They are now 3-1 with a 2-touchdown win at Clemson. You can say what you want about Clemson falling apart. They are 1-3, and there's a lot to criticize about Clemson. Nobody thought Syracuse would beat them like that, though. So you can't pretend that you thought that would be the case. So with that in mind, yeah, Fran Brown has Syracuse building as a program. So when you take all that into account, now Syracuse is not yet in the top 25. Neither is Mississippi State. Both are, and then the other one, wanted to point out Mississippi State. Tennessee faces them on the road this week. They got that win over Arizona State. So let's talk about games Tennessee's played. Syracuse blew them out. Georgia, at Mississippi State, at Alabama, at Oklahoma, and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Alabama, Mississippi State, Georgia, and Syracuse. That's 6 teams that all have a case to be in the top 25, and 4 of them are in the top 25 as we speak. So with that in mind, I'm going out on a limb and I'm going to say it. Bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. Tennessee will be able to reach the college football playoff now at 9-3, not just 10-2. I am amending my statement from the beginning of the year. The schedule will allow Tennessee to reach the college football playoff at 9-3 rather than 10-2. That is banked on it.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Last year, and this is one of the big reasons the SEC and Tennessee has a great chance of getting into the college football playoff. Last year, there were 3 SEC teams that finished the season 9-3. Those SEC teams were Alabama, who was at number 11 in the college football playoff, Ole Miss, who was number 14, and South Carolina, who was number 15. They all got snubbed in favor of a 2-loss SMU team and a 1-loss Indiana team that their only loss was the only good team they played all year. The SEC raised hell because they were debating that schedule strength should count for something. That sparked major negotiations this offseason for what the college football playoff format would look like in the future. The Big 10 wants automatic bids for every team. The SEC, and when I say automatic, I mean they wanted 4-4, 3-3, yada yada that. The SEC wanted it to just be seeded 1 through either 12 or 1 through 14 or 1 through 16 with whichever model they go, but just seeded in order with like a certain number of auto bids for conference champions. The Big Ten was only going to get on board with that if the SEC went to 9 games. The SEC made the decision right before the start of the season to go to 9 games for next year. They did that on the premise and on the idea that the College Football Playoff Selection Committee would weight schedule strength a heck of a lot more heavily than they did last year. This college football season is basically the test run for that. If schedule strength is not weighed more heavily this year by the committee, then the SEC will ditch its 9-game schedule, at which point the networks will be very unhappy, and the college football playoff is carried on ESPN, which carries the SEC. So the SEC holds a lot of cards here. Now, when I take that into account, already I said 9-3 was going to get an SEC team into the playoff this year when it didn't last year. I didn't think it would be Tennessee because of the schedule. Now, bringing it back to Tennessee, it now could be. I just named you the 6 schools that could be very, very good. Now, there are schools Tennessee's playing that are worse than we thought. Arkansas is in deep trouble. That is the unluckiest loss I think we have ever seen in football last year. What happened to them, or last weekend, what happened to them against Memphis. That is a really, really big deal going forward. Arkansas is a huge, shall we say, issue for the Vols. The SEC's doing what they're doing with this schedule the SEC doing what they're doing with their strong arming of the college football playoff would not seem to favor Tennessee when you specifically talk about Arkansas. But Arkansas is not a bad team still. I mean, they are 2 turnovers away from being 4-0 right now, at which point Tennessee's schedule was going to look better. Now Arkansas is about to host Notre Dame. If Arkansas beats Notre Dame, by the way, in a week, we are talking about a totally different story at that point. A totally different story. It will be wild. We're going to see what happens there. But if Arkansas, they did lose at Memphis and they did lose at Ole Miss, but they're still decent at home. So Arkansas is going to host Notre Dame and they're going to host Texas A&M. I'm not so sure they can't win those 2 games, and I'm not so sure they can't beat Auburn and Mississippi State, at which point that gets them to 6 wins. So Tennessee plays 6 top 25 caliber teams, another 6-win caliber team in Arkansas. And when you look at that whole schedule, you think, you know what? Tennessee's schedule strength is going to be very, very, very strong. As a matter of fact, if you just do the real-time RPI formula, which I have done in the past for schedule strength, and it factors in your opponent's winning percentage and your opponent's winning percentage. That's all they really do. Tennessee's schedule strength right now is number 15. Right now, their schedule strength is number 15, and it's only going to get better going forward. So when you factor all that into play, yeah, I think that Tennessee, their schedule strength might alone get them into the college football playoff. And that is something we didn't see in the past. So all that being said, I think Tennessee, their schedule strength is now at the point to where 9-3 can get them into the playoff. I'm setting up that poll question now, and you guys can vote on it. Given how much tougher Vols' schedule looks now, can 9-3 get them into the CFP? We'll say yes. We'll say no. We'll say no, not that tough, or no, committee hates Tennessee. And I know some of you guys will vote on that. So given how much tougher the Vols schedule looks now, can 9-3 get them into the college football playoff? Vote yes, no, not that tough, or no, committee hates Tennessee. Portions of the program are brought to you by Peak IV Hydration in South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. PeakIVHydration.com. Link is in the chat. When we come back, the line for Tennessee, Mississippi State has dramatically moved. What's going on with that? Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook. Sports.
It's a new year, a new day, And Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Hello, ma'am. Here to look at that plumbing problem?
Oh boy. Yep, you're gonna need a whole new sink.
This toilet is no good. You're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn on your notifications and tell a friend. Building something great here at Off the Hook Sports want you to be a part of it. We have some breaking news to bring you. For college football as the SEC's permanent opponents have been released. We will push our line story for Tennessee and Mississippi State to tomorrow because this breaking news has to be reported right now. The SEC permanent opponents have been released. As we know, the SEC is going to a 9-game schedule next year where each team will play 3 permanent opponents and the other 6 on a rotational basis every other year, which guarantees they will play every SEC team home and away over a 4-year period. Tennessee's 3 permanent opponents have been revealed. And the college football world, out of jealousy, is going to pull its hair out because this is What the H, and it's brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. Looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. They want to be your jeweler. RickTerryJewelry.com. Are you guys ready for this? Chris Lowe is reporting. He revealed on On3 that Tennessee's 3 permanent opponents will be Alabama, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. What the H? Tennessee gets Kentucky and Vanderbilt as permanent opponents. And by the way, this is no longer just Chris Lowe. Pete Thamel and ESPN have also reported it. The permanent opponents for Tennessee in the 9-game SEC slate that is to take shape next year will be Alabama, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. Tennessee will no longer play Florida or Georgia on an annual basis. Those are 2 long-term SEC East rivals. Other SEC East rivals, for what it's worth, were South Carolina and Missouri, but Tennessee stopped playing them anyway after last year. But Florida and Georgia are no longer annual opponents for Tennessee football. They are going to be playing, again, I want to point this out again, Alabama, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. What the H? I'm going to set up this poll question real quick. So first, let's close this out. Given how much tougher the Vols schedule looks now, can 9-3 get them into the college football playoff? Yes, say 21%. No, it's not that tough. Say 21%. and 58% no, the committee hates Tennessee. But the poll question up is this. What do you think of Kentucky, Vandy, and Bama being Vols' permanent 3 SEC opponents? Say love it, say hate it, wanted Florida, or say hate it, wanted Georgia, or say hate it, it's too easy. All right, how about this? There we go. Let's go. What do you think of Kentucky and Bama being Vols' permanent SEC opponents? There was hate it, you wanted Florida, hate it, you wanted Georgia, love it, or hate it, it's too easy. You guys go ahead and vote on that. What the H, again, brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler, looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com. I cannot believe Tennessee drew Tennessee drew Alabama, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt for their annual opponents. I will say it does make sense if you care about history. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. But first, vote on the poll question. What do you think of Kentucky, Vandy, and Bama being the Vols' permanent 3 SEC opponents? Now, look, I want to point this out first before I go into a soliloquy about the history of the conference. When you're playing a 9-game schedule, it's much harder to have such a gap in quality opponents in the SEC like what Texas enjoyed the last 2 years in a 16-team league. A 9-game schedule in a 16-team league is much, much better than an 8-game schedule. It's actually better and more fair, believe it or not, than the 8-game conference schedule used to be in the 12-team SEC. Because for those who don't remember, when the SEC was just at 12 teams, you played 5 division games, and then you played half the teams in the other division. And it was so cyclical that the East could be determined, or your division win could be determined based on you playing the 3 toughest teams in a division and another team playing the 3 worst teams in a division. Florida got really bad draws during that time because they had to play LSU, and I think there was a period where they played LSU and Auburn every year. Tennessee got a real lucky draw one year. They won the East. They won it in 2007, where they got to draw Mississippi State, Alabama, and Arkansas, which were 3 decent teams, but not as tough as what Florida had drawn that year, which was LSU and Auburn. And I don't remember exactly the third team that they drew, but they were all better than the ones Tennessee drew. You can't, once it went to 14 teams, you didn't really have that much of a difference because you just had 2 teams in the other division you had to play every year and 6 in your own. But then when it went to 16 teams and you just threw it into a pot of an 8-game schedule with no divisions, it was a problem. This is going to make it more fair. I will say this. A 9-game schedule in a 16-team division is a lot more equitable than it looks. It's hard to have too much of a gap in schedule strength when you do that. But again, What the H, brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. Looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition, RickTerryJewelry.com. They want to be your jeweler.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
The poll question up. What do you think of Kentucky, Vandy, and Bama being the Vols' permanent SEC opponents? 71% say love it, 10% say hate it, wanted Florida, 0% say hate it, wanted Georgia, and 19% say hate it, it's too easy. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the whole situation. Tennessee has a long history with those 3 teams. If you look at the longest played SEC rivalries, and if you just take into account history and not magnitude, the oldest played rivalry in the SEC is Georgia and Auburn. They played 129 times. The second oldest played rivalry is Mississippi State and Ole Miss. They played 121 times. The third oldest played is Texas and Oklahoma. They played 120 times. Tennessee, Kentucky is the fourth oldest played game at 120. Texas A&M, fifth oldest played at 119. Tennessee, Vanderbilt, sixth oldest played at 119. It's actually tied with Texas and Texas A&M. LSU, Mississippi State, LSU, Ole Miss, Alabama, Mississippi State, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida. That is the top 11 SEC rivalry games, the ones that have actually gone over 100 games. And spoiler alert, all of those games are being protected. The SEC went with history. They want to protect every game that has been played over 100 times. That was the big thing. Now, let me throw my 2 cents in on that real quick. I will say this from the perspective of people upset about who Tennessee drew and why there's some validity, particularly with Kentucky. I understand wanting to protect the oldest rivalries in the SEC. And my understanding is the only one played more than 100 times that's not protected is LSU, Mississippi State. That is one of the oldest played SEC rivalries, and that one is no longer being protected because they wanted to protect LSU and Arkansas. But that already is showing some inconsistency. And trying to protect history versus magnitude of rivalries when they happen in the history of when they mattered is a mistake. Tennessee and Vanderbilt's an in-state rivalry. I get it. It has some historical in-state connections. Tennessee, Kentucky, you need to throw out the window. I get it's old. It's the oldest played game by pure happenstance. It's one of the oldest in the SEC, dating back to the 1890s, early 1900s. I think that Tennessee and Kentucky is a rivalry that only has age to it and nothing else special. There was never a period of time where Tennessee and Kentucky stopped SEC football because that game mattered so much. There was never a moment where there's nothing connecting the two schools in terms of they're not an in-state rivalry. So when you add that into account, I don't think there's anything you can say historically that justifies the idea of Tennessee and Kentucky staying. I just think that was somewhat a mistake. I actually think, believe it or not, and I know people talk about Florida, I think Tennessee and Georgia would have been worth keeping too. But Georgia, you're going to have to keep, they had to keep Auburn, Florida, and South Carolina. Georgia had to keep Auburn, Florida, and South Carolina. So I understand that. I actually would have done 5 permanent opponents, but that's just me. Now let me go down the list of every SEC school and give you the rivals they're keeping. Alabama is going to play Auburn, Mississippi State, and Tennessee every year. Arkansas is going to play LSU, Missouri, and Texas. Auburn is going to play Alabama, Georgia, and Vanderbilt. Florida is going to play Georgia, Kentucky, and South Carolina. Georgia is going to play Auburn and Florida and South Carolina. Kentucky is going to play Florida, South Carolina, and Tennessee. LSU is going to play Arkansas, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M. Ole Miss is going to play LSU, Mississippi State, and Oklahoma. Mississippi State is going to play Alabama, Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt. Missouri is going to play Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. Oklahoma is going to play Ole Miss, Missouri, and Texas. South Carolina is going to play Florida, Georgia, Kentucky. Tennessee is going to play Alabama, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. Texas is going to play Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. And Texas A&M is going to play LSU, Missouri, and Texas. And Vanderbilt is going to play Auburn, Mississippi State, and Tennessee. There are a few changes I would have made to this one, honestly. I probably would have... I know there's the whole battle for the golden boot thing. I think that LSU-Arkansas rivalry might be overrated, though. I might ditch that, honestly, and have Arkansas play Texas A&M, Missouri, and Texas. But I would like to see LSU keep its rivalries with Ole Miss and Mississippi State. That Mississippi-Louisiana line was always impressive, was always an intriguing thing to me. So I don't like seeing LSU-Mississippi State go by the wayside. When you take all of that into account, I just think if they were going to protect history, it's funny they could have done more to it, and it's odd that the one school they protected history for is Tennessee. And guys, the conspiracies are going to be out. It's going to look like they are looking out for Tennessee on this, because if you are trying to protect, how are you going to use? And I actually have to agree with them on this. To be fair, how are you going to protect history for Tennessee and use that as the pretext to let them play Kentucky and Vanderbilt every year, but then you don't protect LSU, Mississippi State as a rivalry, which is a more played rivalry than a lot of the other schools you protected. You don't protect Kentucky and Vanderbilt, by the way. Interestingly enough, they've played a lot. You see the problem here? You see the mistake? I think this is somewhat a big mistake for the conference overall and how they went about doing this. I think, honestly, Kentucky and Vanderbilt should have been playing every year. I think that's a huge one. Kentucky and Vanderbilt should be played more than Kentucky and Tennessee. But, again, I think they were – I don't know what their reasoning was on why they decided to protect history in some cases and not others. But either way, Tennessee is playing Alabama, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. Again, this will be reevaluated every 4 years. So they will play Alabama, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt every single year, and then they will rotate the other 6 opponents at home and on the road once every 4 years. So they will play you will visit every SEC stadium over a 4-year period. And if someone brings up Vanderbilt not playing Ole Miss is a big loss too. Portions of the program are brought to you by Quality Tire Pros, serving Chattanooga community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive brake alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. Walk in and say, "Hello, Off the Hook Sports sent you." QualityTirePros.com. When we come back, our SEC Power Rankings and our Week 4 recap. Stick with us. 2 minutes Off the Hook Sports.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super Savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer.
Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance.
Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications, tell a friend. Building something great here at Off the Hook Sports wants you to be a part of it. We continue our coverage today with the stat of the day. And the stat of the day is this. On Saturday, Joey Aguilar crossed the 200 passing yard mark for his 28th straight game. That is every one of his starts in college football. He has started 28 games. It is the longest active streak among FBS quarterbacks right now. Stat of the day is brought to you by Joe Neubert Collision Center. For nearly 50 years, Neubert Collision Center has been East Tennessee's best choice for quality repair work and fantastic customer service. JoeNeubertCollision.com. JoeNeubertCollision.com. It is time for 4 downs, everybody. That's right, 4 downs. And it is our SEC Power Rankings. Our SEC Power Rankings after Week 4 of 2025 are out, and they are controversial. It is starting to get easier and easier to separate teams based on how they're playing in the moment, as we are about to wrap up September with 1 more week's worth of games in this month. Our SEC Power Rankings will be divided up into 4 downs, brought to you by Ted Russell Ford. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. We broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. 4 downs. Again, Dave's off. He is, again, just a previous commitment, but I'm still going to do the Cooper Mays voice to have a little bit of fun. So Cooper Mays here. Like and subscribe. Thank you, Coop. All right. 4 downs SEC power rankings. 4 tiers. The tiers are in trouble tier, still have things to prove tier, have a loss, but looking elite tier, and riding high. Ride. That is, for those who don't know, an 8-Ball and MJG song after they sold out and got signed to Bad Boy Records. Anyways, let's get rolling. SEC power rankings, 4 downs. Coop here, first down. The in trouble tier. Number 16 in the power rankings, Florida. They are so in trouble. They lost 26-7 to Miami. This offense is absolutely atrocious. DJ Lagway, we thought was overrated coming into the season. We all talked about that on this show, and it's really showing on a week-to-week basis. He's just a bad quarterback. Carson Beck didn't even have to do anything because Miami torched him on the ground too. So Florida has no run defense. They have a bad quarterback. They're 1-3. They legit could go 1-11 this year. I think Florida is obviously the worst team in the SEC right now, given the way they're playing. Number 15, South Carolina. They looked better in a loss. I will give them that. They put up a fight against Missouri on the road. Missouri, as a matter of fact, had to score 11 points in the final quarter to win this game, believe it or not. South Carolina did lead 20-18 after 3 quarters, but Missouri scored a touchdown and a field goal in the 4th to make it a 2-score game and take control. But I mean, guys, I know Lenore Sellers threw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, had his best game of the year by far, but his mobility was clearly gone. I mean, he was sacked a lot, had negative 28 rushing yards, and Lenore Sellers' dual threat abilities are what make him great, and he did not have that on display in this game, and that's a real concern for South Carolina going forward. So that injury, I think, is an issue. So I'm having South Carolina at number 15 right now. Number 14, Kentucky. They had an off week, had a much-needed one. The reason I have them above South Carolina is Kentucky did look better against Eastern Michigan, having done their switch at quarterback play, and they didn't have to lose. So at number 14, Kentucky, but they are still an ugly-looking football team right now at 2-1, and they still got a lot to prove. So they're number 14. And number 13, the final team for the in trouble tier is Arkansas. Now, Arkansas should be 4-0. They should be 4-0, but they absolutely should at least be 3-1. How you fumble in that situation at Memphis last weekend when you're down 31 or down 32-31 and just take 3 knees and run out the clock almost and get it, and you win the game off a field goal. That was crazy. That is the worst, most brutal loss I think I've ever witnessed. Arkansas has a really bad habit of losing games that all they have to do is run out the clock and then they fumble the ball somehow. You know, dating back to Tennessee, 1998, they're number 13, but I do think Arkansas is better than the other ones. They've just been severely unlucky. All right. Cooper Mays here. Second down. Thanks, Coop. Still have things to prove. This is the group of teams that are good football teams, but they haven't proven what they need to prove yet, even if they're starting to look better in certain situations. Okay, so we start with 2 schools that are undefeated that haven't exactly proved. Actually, no, I'm going to take that back. Scratch that. We're going to go with this way. We're going to start with, we'll stick with this. 2 schools that are undefeated, but I still think have more to prove. Mississippi State is number 12. Now, part of that is because Mississippi State didn't look great against Northern Illinois over the weekend. Not looking great against Northern Illinois was enough for us to move them down to number 12. They're still in a good shape, in good shape overall, but they still have things to prove. So with that, I have them at number 12, although the Arizona State win does look better and better. Missouri's number 11. Missouri looked a lot better last week, but given what they did on Saturday, winning just 29-20, they're kind of playing a little bit of ugly football right now, and so I had to drop them to number 11. They still have some things to prove, even though they have a Power 5 win. Ole Miss is number 10. Ole Miss blew out Tulane. The Arkansas win doesn't look as impressive given the fact that Memphis beat Arkansas at the same time. That is a Power 5 win, and Lane Kiffin does have a good offense once again. So Ole Miss is number 10, but I can't have them that much higher right now. Now, this is going to be controversial for a lot of people, but I got Texas at number 9. I know they have a loss. They looked ugly 2 weeks ago with Arch, but they did blow out. And I mean, they absolutely blew out Sam Houston 55-0 over the weekend. I get it with Sam Houston. I get it. I understand that. But I do think they're picking up offensively a little bit. And that close loss to Ohio State, you got to give them credit for playing that game tough. So I have Texas at number 9 right now. Guys, if Texas and Ole Miss played on a neutral field, you would favor Texas. Stop lying. At number 8, I got Alabama. They had a bye this past week, but after their loss to Florida State, they were looking really, really, really good. And I know Wisconsin is a very questionable team, but they're still a Power 5 team that's better than any team Texas has beaten. So I got Alabama number 8, and I've got LSU number 7. Now, LSU, their win over Clemson doesn't look that impressive anymore, which we're going to get to. And they were looking ugly the next 2 weeks, but they kind of got righted the ship a little bit this past week against Southeastern Louisiana. They went 56-10. Garrett Nussmeier balled out. Sometimes you need a tune-up game against a bad team to ball out, and Garrett Nussmeier was able to do that just like Arch Manning was. That could get them going. So I got them in the same tier. And then at number 5, LSU number 6, because Alabama was number 7. Did I get that right, guys? I think I had Mississippi State at 12, Missouri at 11, Ole Miss at 10, Texas at 9, Alabama 8, LSU 7, LSU number 7. LSU's number 7. And then number 6, I got Vanderbilt. I can't believe I'm saying Vanderbilt all the way up at number 6, but Vanderbilt is blowing out teams. They blew out Georgia State, and I had Georgia State covering because that was always old school. Vandy might start undefeated in September, but a Georgia State game was always the type of game where they blew it in the end. They didn't do it this time, though. Kudos to Vanderbilt for maintaining their dominance and absolutely balling, dropping 70 points. This school might be the real deal. So that's my tier. These tiers are undefeated programs like Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Missouri, and Vanderbilt, where you question how good they are. And then powerhouse programs that all have a loss, but you still think they're going to be okay long-term. Texas, Alabama, and LSU. They're all in a pot together. Now, Tennessee Center Cooper Mays here. Third down. Third down is this: elite teams with a tough loss that may look better because of their loss. And that's where I have I have Tennessee at number 5. Tennessee's at number 5 on this list. Tennessee lost to Georgia in a close one, but they blew out a Syracuse team that's looking better by the week. And then they just blew out UAB at home. They're looking better. They are in good shape. And I have Auburn at number 4. Now, question why I have Auburn ahead of Tennessee. Well, Auburn was on the road for their tough loss. Tennessee was at home, and Auburn got cheated, and Tennessee didn't. Okay, it's just that simple. Auburn got cheated. Tennessee didn't. Auburn should be undefeated. They should be in the top tier, and they're not because of just the loss factor, but it was really a coin flip. I could have put Auburn in that top tier. Tennessee lost a very, very close one to Georgia, but it was a fair and square close loss, and it was at home. So I have Tennessee number 5 and Auburn number 4 because there's a clear delineation between those two schools and the top 3, even if they're in the same tier caliber. You'd rather be the top 3. The top 3, our top tier of SEC teams right now in our SEC Power Rankings. Coming up first, 4 Downs, brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln, your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer.
Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance.
Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
All SEC Center Cooper Mays here. 4th down. All right, 4th down is this top tier. Number 3, Oklahoma. I have them at number 3 because they could very easily be at number 4 because they got away with some shenanigans to beat Auburn, but they still won, and they're undefeated, and they've beaten Auburn and Michigan now. So I got Oklahoma number 3. Number 2, Texas A&M. Again, they could have a loss right now, but they got away with some shenanigans to beat Notre Dame, and those shenanigans are enough to warrant them being number 2 because they are still undefeated. And when you're undefeated like this, you are happy. So Texas A&M number 2. And number 1, to nobody's surprise, is Georgia. Georgia, the only undefeated team with a win as good as their win at Tennessee, and also who who didn't get away with some shenanigans to win their game. So Georgia deserves to be number 1. I think that is as clear as day. Georgia is absolutely elite, And that is not a surprise to anybody when you take all of this into account. So Georgia is number 1. Portions of the program are brought to you by the UPS Store Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated. 10629 Hardin Valley Road, 10629 Hardin Valley Road. We close out the show with our week 4 recap. And a week 4 it was. And this is going to be hot or cold. And I'm going to say, am I hot or cold on every team I mention, either bettering their storyline or worsening their storyline going forward? That's how we're going to play it. It's hot or cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. CityHeatandAir.com, CityHeatandAir.com. Our lead story of the weekend, and I kept saying it, Oklahoma cheated. And the SEC acknowledged Oklahoma cheated. So what happened? Oklahoma beat Auburn 24-17 over the weekend. This was the story of the game. Basically, there was a hideout tactic in the Oklahoma-Auburn game where a receiver made it look like he was, and I'm going to show it to you here, okay? I'm going to show you guys this. I'm going to share the screen with you to talk about how this all played out. But Oklahoma made it look like a receiver was going towards the sideline and subbing out. This is called, again, a hideout tactic. Now watch. Walking slowly to the sideline, walking slowly to the sideline. They're running no huddle again. They're still running no huddle. They're running no huddle. And the receiver gets back into the game. So nobody's on him. You can't really see it right here, but nobody's on him, and he's wide open for a touchdown right there because they thought he was on the bench. Now, that is a clear unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, and the refs should have called it. And the SEC later acknowledged the refs should have called it by releasing this statement, quote, in Saturday's Auburn at Oklahoma football game with 10:50 remaining in the second quarter, a pass was thrown to Oklahoma with number 5, resulting in a touchdown. Oklahoma number 5 participated in the previous play, which was a first down play from the 22-yard line. After the first down play was completed, Oklahoma number 5 continued towards his team's sideline, but stopped just before reaching the Oklahoma sideline. NCAA football rule 9-2 Article 2 is labeled unfair tactics with paragraph 8 stating no simulated replacements or substitutions may be used to confuse opponents. No tactic associated with substitutes or the substitution process may be used to confuse opponents. This includes any hideout tactic with or without a substitution. The officiating crew did not properly interpret the action as a hideout tactic. If properly officiated, the second down play should have resulted in a team unsportsmanlike conduct penalty of 15 yards assessed from the previous appropriate accountability will be applied with additional comment. All right, so that was all why Oklahoma ended up winning in a battle of undefeateds in the SEC. Oklahoma, though, won by a touchdown. That touchdown's waved off. Best case scenario, this game goes to overtime. We still don't know if that penalty is even called, by the way, and this is a big point here that I want to insist, which is that if the penalty's called, if I'm looking at the yard line right now, Oklahoma is at roughly the 24-yard line. So they get pushed back to the 39. They might play for field goal range at that point just to hit it, just to try a field goal, at which point they would still have gotten 3 out of that, and they could still win 20-17. Their kicker, Tate Sandell, has hit a 52-yard field goal in the past. And on this year, I think he's only hit 1 of 2 from beyond 40. This year he is 2 of 3 from beyond 40, including a 50-yarder. He is perfect within 40. He's 6 of 7 on the year. He's a very accurate kicker. It's crazy to think that he wouldn't be able to hit a field goal to give them the win. So while Oklahoma did get away with some shenanigans, I still think they should be happy about the state that they're in with their win over Auburn right now. Brent Venables has this program rolling with John Mateer. They are a dangerous football team. Auburn, though, shouldn't panic. They got a lot more football left, and Hugh Freeze still has this program rolling. That was 2 very good football programs. I think in the upper echelon of the SEC, they showed that. Other SEC news, Billy Napier and Sam Pittman continue to get in more trouble for different reasons. Sam Pittman loses games because he mismanages in-game moments worse than any coach you will ever meet, and Billy Napier loses games because he's a bad head coach who doesn't have his program rolling. Billy Napier's clear as day fired after Florida lost to Miami 26-7. Clear as day fired. It's over. They're 1-3, and they're only going to get worse. Billy Napier's done. Sam Pittman is 2-2, should be 4-0, and should definitely at the very least be 3-1. That fumble to lose to Memphis last week, for those who don't know, there was a minute and a half left. Arkansas had the ball inside the Memphis 10-yard line. All they have to do is run the clock down to get a field goal. They ran for a first down so they could run more clock. And trying to get the first down, they fumbled the football. And that's how Memphis was able to run out the clock. The most heartbreaking way in the history of the world to lose. And that's the second week in a row they were driving and they fumbled late. Sam Pittman is 2-2. Should, again, at least be 3-1. But at the end of the day, Sam Pittman, Arkansas always loses these close games because Sam Pittman does a lot of clock mismanagement late, and it always costs his team. He does a lot of mismanagement throughout the game. That's why they lose. So their seats are extremely hot, but Billy Napier's is hotter, and Billy Napier is, I think, straight up done. So I'm hot on Oklahoma and Auburn. I'm cold on Florida and Billy Napier riding the ship. And I'm cold on Arkansas and Sam Pittman riding the ship. Now, Missouri and USC quietly stay undefeated. Missouri beat South Carolina 29-20. USC, their offense looks back, by the way, with Lincoln Riley. Jaden Mayava played elite, threw for 3 touchdowns, and is now looking like a Heisman contender as they beat Michigan State 45-31. But no one's really talking about them that much. They're just quietly undefeated, 2 separate type of programs. I'm hot on USC continuing this run, believe it or not, but I'm cold on Missouri. I think Eli Drinkwitz will get exposed despite his weak schedule. Is Indiana legitimate? A headline of the weekend. Indiana 63-10 beat Illinois. I picked Illinois. I straight up picked Illinois. I thought Indiana was a bad football team after last year. I didn't respect how they got to the college football playoff, and they are proving everybody wrong just with what they did there. So are they legitimate because of what they did to Illinois? They look like they are. They have now they actually have something to hang their hat on when they make the case for the college football playoff. However, I'm going to say that I'm still cold on Indiana, believe it or not. I'm still cold on Indiana. I think that was a matchup thing. I'm going to be fair. I think there was a matchup issue that favored Indiana in that game. Illinois, while they played well at times, their best win last year was against Michigan, who Indiana also beat. And then South Carolina in a bowl game, but we're finding out that South Carolina is overrated. So when you take all of that into account, Illinois may not be a top 25 caliber team with Brett Bielema. So I'm still cold on Indiana, and I'm cold on Illinois. Nebraska continues its streak of choking against ranked teams. I think Nebraska has lost 29 straight to ranked teams dating back to 2016. It is the second longest active losing streak to ranked opponents among Power 4 teams, only to Rutgers, with a streak of 41 losses dating back to 2009. Nebraska hasn't been an AP ranked team since September 17th, 2016. Tennessee played Nebraska that year, funny enough, in the Music City Bowl at the end of the season. So Nebraska loses to Michigan, lets me down. Matt Rule's team let me down in a heartbreaker. I had Nebraska upsetting Michigan. Second week in a row, my upset pick of the week was Nebraska this week. It was Tennessee last week. Second week in a row that my upset pick of the week lost by 3 at home in a heartbreaker late. Nebraska should have had that. Now I think Michigan, am I hot on Nebraska still? I am. I think Nebraska will actually be okay long-term. I think Nebraska will still be fine long-term. I think that was just a tough game, and I think Michigan is starting to look like a better team than we thought. So I'm hot on Michigan. I'm hot on Nebraska and Michigan this year. That was just a tough game. Now, Texas Tech looks like the best team in the Big 12 after what they just did to Utah over the weekend. Texas Tech beat Utah 34-10. That's pretty darn good. Okay. Texas Tech's head coach, Joe McGuire, is doing a heck of a job, but more importantly than that, Cody Campbell, that money they're buying down there in Lubbock seems to be working. Cody Campbell is a nouveau riche billionaire and very close friends with Donald Trump. And all of a sudden, Texas Tech wants to invest in football when they were looking for excuses to fire Mike Leach 15 years ago because they didn't have the money to pay him. They want to win a national title. He's trying to buy one. Texas Tech blows out Utah, clearly far and away the best team in the Big 12. That money by Cody Campbell is paying off. I'm hot on Texas Tech. I think they are legitimate, and I think that's going to continue to show as time goes on. Notre Dame returns to the win column. Notre Dame, after playing 2 tough opponents to open the year and losing in tough fashion to both of them, gets home, plays Purdue, wins 56-30, a much-needed win from Marcus Freeman's team. I'm hot on Notre Dame turning things around, but I'm cold on them as a team overall. Notre Dame is not going to make it to the college football playoff. Their schedule, it looks a little better now with USC and Syracuse coming to town, as both of those teams do look better. But I think even if they win out, they're not making the college football playoff. So I'm cold on Notre Dame's chances to make the college football playoff. And finally, the mystique of two legendary coaches has come to an end. Dabo Swinney and Bill Belichick. Clemson is now 1-3. Talking point, by the way, right now is how the ACC low-key has some dangerous teams. Georgia Tech is atop the ACC right now. They are undefeated at 4-0, and they are looking good. Syracuse looks better than they did now at 3-1. Also, Virginia is 3-1, and NC State is 3-1. Miami at 4-0, and Florida State at 4-0. By the way, getting back to the Billy Napier point, I want to point out that to be fair, and Louisville at 3-0. ACC has some very dangerous teams. Miami looks like an elite program now. I meant to point that out with the Billy Napier point, and they deserve to be number 2. Georgia Tech is now looking like a dangerous ACC school, and Syracuse. The problem is, I think Clemson and Dabo Swinney are making Syracuse and Georgia Tech look like elite ACC programs because they are falling apart. The mystique is dying and sticking in the ACC. Bill Belichick's mystique is also dying. These were two legendary coaches in the 2010s. Bill Belichick just lost to UCF 34-9. And guess what you got coming up next with the mystique of Dabo and Bill Belichick? Well, they both have a bye this week, and then they will face each other next week. Clemson at North Carolina, and as many have joked, that game should be on Cartoon Network at 9 a.m., given how bad both of those teams have looked so far. Hot or Cold brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. CityHeatandAir.com.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare. All right, my Heisman race, my Heisman contenders now. I got Jaden Mayava from USC. I have Fernando Mendoza at Indiana, given what happened over the weekend. John Mateer at Oklahoma has had the most impressive resume just based on opponents, not necessarily stats. Dante Moore has the best stats, not necessarily the best opponents at Oregon. And Josh Hoover at TCU. Watch out for that. So all quarterbacks, Jaden Mayava, Fernando Mendoza, John Mateer, Dante Moore, and Josh Hoover. My top 10, I tell you guys all the time, my top 10 is solely down to schedule strength and record. That is it. And I waited a little more as the year goes on. We're almost out of September, so it's getting easier and easier to separate teams just on that. And just based on that, and I don't even care about quality wins by the way, guys. I just care about schedule strength and record. Oklahoma's now number 1. They deserve to be their number 1. Ohio State's number 2. Georgia's number 3. Ole Miss is number 4. USC's number 5. Indiana's number 6. Texas A&M is number 7. Georgia Tech is number 8. Miami's number 9. Mississippi State's number 10. Some notable teams not in the top 25. Oregon, haven't beaten anybody. Florida State, that win over Alabama, it was impressive, but they have played a really easy schedule since then. Penn State, haven't beaten anybody. Missouri, Kansas, their best win. They got to prove more. Iowa State, they have beaten 2 Power 5 schools, but Power 5 schools don't look as good as they once did. And LSU's 1 Power 5 win was over Clemson, and Clemson does not look like a good football team anymore. That's why they're not in there. So that's my top 10. Oklahoma, Ohio State, Georgia, Ole Miss, USC, Indiana, Texas A&M, Georgia Tech, Miami, and Mississippi State. My Heisman race, Jaden Mayava, Fernando Mendoza, John Mateer, Dante Moore, and Josh Hoover. But we got one more week of September football, and things are going to get more fun as things go on because the season's kicking in, guys. So it's getting fun, and week 4 has still not given us clear tiers of how to rank teams yet, but that's going to be tougher and tougher as the seasons go on with NIL and transfer portal. A lot more parity in college football now than there ever was. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, up by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We broadcast you live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville. New and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn on your notifications. Tell a friend. Build something great here at Off the Hook Sports. Want you to be a part of it. We will be back on tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Thank you guys all for tuning in with Caleb Calhoun. This has been a presentation of Off